Why every news station, when you talk to any economist, someone in business, someone in government, they mention the year 2030 essentially being the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. This is not a prediction. This is something that society, no matter where you are in the world, is planning for the year of 2030 to completely change everything. And in this video today, I'm going to dive into why that is the case and what you can do to prepare for the year 2030 so you won't be left behind. Right now, the conversation in the internet streets is that AI is going to be a bubble and it's just going to burst. And that's why we're seeing all of these layoffs, because companies are spending a lot of money on artificial intelligence. But that's not the full story. And actually, that's not the story at all. What artificial intelligence and automation is currently doing is disrupting how things are done, so much bigger than it being a bubble. And we've seen this in recent times. Just think back to the 90s. Before the internet, there was a thing called Yellow Pages, where the average person, when they wanted to seek information, they went to the Yellow Pages. And it wasn't because the internet was just better than Yellow Pages. That's why Yellow Pages became obsolete. No, it disrupted how people sought out information, how people went from not knowing to knowing. And it changed everything. And now we don't even think about Yellow Pages anymore. And if you're under the age of 28, you probably don't even know what Yellow Pages are. And that is what we're seeing with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence and automation are changing how work is done. That is the conflict that we're seeing. That's why we could have mass layoffs and mass hiring at the same time in certain sectors that support. That's why it's such a huge contradiction, where we're seeing this economy where people at the top are doing so well for themselves and are contributing the most to consumer spending, but then people at the bottom of the economy are really struggling and suffering right now. That's the contradiction of the story. So I want to dive into this video in what we can do to prepare ourselves for 2030. Right now, we all want the same thing. We need some type of stability. Not only are we seeing so much going on in the economic sector, we're also seeing a lot of tension, a lot of civil unrest, a lot of geopolitics, and we're fighting over countries that we weren't even thinking about 10 years ago, such as Greenland. And this is causing a major stress on the average person who could care less about going on at the macro level. We all want stability. We all want to be able to support our families. And we all want to feel like tomorrow is not going to be so surprising. And we are going to get there. But until this industrial revolution and this technology somewhat settles, and policies and companies can maintain some type of structure, because the technology is moving so fast, there's going to be even more disruption. But the key disruption that most people are not really thinking about is how AI is changing how work is done, meaning that job titles may be the same in 2030, but the work that is done for that specific job title will change for a lot of positions. And just like with the rise of the internet in the 90s, there are going to be some positions that right now we don't even have will be appearing during this time when things become more stable. So I want to provide a concrete example of how AI is disrupting things. Think about a project manager and their response 10 years ago. They were required pretty much to track information, track the progress of the assignment that they were given, and to manage multiple tasks and people every day. Right now, AI can do about 85% of that. So a lot of project managers were feeling squeezed, and AI has relieved some of that stress. Project management is still a very important field and is going to grow as we see artificial intelligence and automation become more stable. But what is required of a project manager has changed. Now, project managers are more responsible for managing information, managing uncertainty, and making judgment calls in very complex situations. So project management has not disappeared. what is required of a project manager has changed drastically. So again, why does 2030 matter when we're seeing a lot of this disruption already? Let me let you in on a secret. 2030 is the year that most companies and governments expect to have everything into play. So having their policies updated, their procedures updated, and the new roles and tasks completed. Right now, a lot of companies and governments are experimenting and testing out things that are dealing with artificial intelligence. But 2030 is the year that these institutions expect to have everything set in stone. So 2030 is the year the old system is expected to be obsolete and the new system to be in the beginning of its mature state where it's extremely stable and more predictable. So why is everybody feeling so much pressure at work, regardless of what industry you're in? Even if the industry is something that AI needs to run, it's because right now everyone is under a microscope. People at the top are looking to see what task in the job and in the work can be reorganized and be transferred to something that is automatic and something that artificial intelligence can take over. That's why we see a lot of companies spending a lot of money on different artificial intelligence tools. It's happening regardless of what your job title is, how much work experience you have, how unique niche your role is. The company is pretty much putting everyone under a microscope. And we'll continue to see that for about the next couple of years or so. And here's something else that is key. What artificial intelligence and automation are going to take over is anything that is routine and repetitive and that does not require any human interaction. So if you're in a position where you don't need any judgment, decision-making skills, don't have to interact with humans on a day-to-day basis to get the work done, it's time to reskill and upskill. And for those who are in positions that require a lot of creativity, decision-making, and judgments, it's up to you to make sure that you understand how AI is going to complement that skill set so you can stay at the top and you can be ahead of the game. So preparing for this tech shift does not mean everybody needs to learn how to code. That is the secret. You need to understand what parts of your job and your career are routine and repetitive. Everyone can be exposed, and everyone is exposed to artificial intelligence and automation. So we have to hone in on what is something that they need a human to deal with decision making and uncertainty. Okay, what part of my job is something completely routine and repetitive that a computer can easily do it if it's programmed to do so? That is the key in understanding where you're at and being prepared for this fourth industrial revolution. So if work feels less stable than it used to, if you feel like you're being micromanaged, it's not a personal failure. That's just where society is right now because of this technological shift we expect to see by 2030 and what most companies, governments, and institutions, no matter where you are in the world, are expected to be and see by the year 2030. So 2030 isn't the end of work. It's not as dramatic as some people saying we won't have to work at all and we could just play video games all day. No, that's not going to happen. It's just that work is going to be reorganized in a way that we have never seen in society. And the preparation starts with understanding the shifts and where you're positioned to be. You still have time to be at the top of your game in the year 2030. Don't feel like you're behind because you are not. You are going to be prepared for the year 2030. You're going to take out the time to reskill and really understand the opportunities that you would like to do that deal with this technological shift by 2030. If you found this information to be extremely helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. I am a labor economist, and I talk all things about how innovation is reshaping work and society. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time.